Sometimes we think that to develop an open heart, to be truly loving and compassionate, means that we need to be passive, to allow others to abuse us, to smile and to let anyone do what they want with us. Yet this is not what is meant by compassion. Quite the contrary. Compassion is not at all weak. It is the strength that arises out of seeing the true nature of suffering in the world. Compassion allows us to bear witness to that suffering, whether it is in ourselves or others, without fear. It allows us to name injustice without hesitation and to act strongly with all the skill at our disposal. To develop this mind state of compassion is to learn to live, as the Buddha put it, with sympathy for all living things without exception. And that quote comes from Sharon Salzberg. Welcome to Surviving the Matrix, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maxwell Egan. It's a pleasure to be with you once again, and I will be your host for the next hour. We live on a beautiful planet, folks. We really do. We live in paradise. Well, it used to be paradise, and it has the potential of becoming paradise again. But unfortunately, in our neglect of things, we have let the earth get a little bit run down. And it's in a pretty degraded state at the moment. But it's nothing that can't be fixed. And we still have the potential of creating an absolute heaven right here on earth simply by applying ourselves to the situation that we as a species find ourselves in. And as I've said a million times to you, I believe that we can apply ourselves simply by building community around us so that we have the strength of numbers required to stand up and make some positive changes to this system. Community is everything, it truly is, because it's only by breaking down the barriers we have in our community that we are going to ever find the strength to address those who control us and those who have created the situation that we now see on the world. Of course, you see, our governments would like to blame us for the situation that we see on the planet, but it really hasn't been the people, the human race, that has created the state the planet is now in. It's been done by the rulers of our planet and those who control our rulers, because it is these people who have allowed all of this corporate monstrosity to grow to the state that it has, and to turn the earth into what it's done, to always put profits before people and profits before the environment and the bottom line as the most important aspect of anything. This has been promoted by our leaders and by the corporate interests that control them. And the only part of it that the human race is actually to blame for is the fact that we've used the things they gave us to use because we trusted them, and the fact that to a large degree much of the human race hasn't woken up to this fact yet. They haven't woken up to the fact that these people are actually trustees and that we have the ability to haul them into line whenever we feel like it, if we can simply remember how the system is supposed to function. Because it's supposed to function with the human race as being the top of the food chain. And that doesn't put the government above the human race, because the government is employed by the human race in order to ensure that things run smoothly and efficiently. And I would suggest that one only has to look around them to see how much in breach of trust these public servants actually are, because the state of the world certainly would not indicate that they've been doing the right thing. And this is why I've been concentrating on trust law so much lately, folks. Not because I want people to suddenly learn trust law and run out and take the government on or anything. I just want people to understand that they are free and that the governments are in fact public trustees whom we employ to act on our behalf. And that's the way it needs to be approached. You see, I've been getting a lot of letters from people regarding trust law. A lot of people are writing to me, asking me for remedies and asking how they can basically free themselves and go and take the system on. And folks, look, there's no form you can fill out that is suddenly going to make you free. You have to be free yourself. You have to know that you're free. I see trust law as a wonderful opportunity to be able to demonstrate to people that they actually are free, because you have these documents that show that you are in a trust agreement with the government and that you have the ability to hold them accountable for their actions. But it's up to you if you want to do that. It's up to people to do it themselves. And the most important thing about trust law, before you even go down that path, is to know who and what you are. If you don't know who and what you are, and you don't believe you are capable of standing in your own power, then don't even go down that path, because you'll probably just end up in trouble. You'll end up caving under the pressure. And that's not what you want to do, folks. You don't want to put yourself in a position where things are going to go very badly for you. Another person I was talking to about trust law said to me, well, even if you do all of this, I don't know how it's going to help you access your trust. And I couldn't figure out what he was saying. I didn't quite understand what he meant. And he kept going on about accessing my trust. And it finally dawned on me. And I said, are you referring to me accessing my security bond, the apparently millions of dollars that each of us has in their own name that's held in trust by the government, by the Treasury Department? And he said, yes. I don't see how it's going to help you access your bond. And I said to him, I don't care about my bond. I don't want my bond. I don't care how much money it is. I don't want it. Leave the money there and put it towards the good of the country. I don't want money for what I'm doing. What I want is for my employees to stop dropping bombs on Iraqi children in my name. What I want is for my employees to stop destroying the water table in my country in my name. And all of the things that our employees are doing in our names, that's what I want to stop. That's all that I'm interested in going down this pathway for it all. I don't want my bond. They can keep my bond. I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, because we're in a position now where these servants are running the mansion and they're doing a really crappy job. And they're only getting away with it because the owners have left the building and have never bothered to return. And the servants are now completely and utterly out of control. Exhibit A, Planet Earth. Another thing that people seem to be having difficulty understanding is the concept of non-compliance. A lot of people believe non-compliance is just sitting at home and doing nothing, and they say, well, Max, if we were to stop complying, how would we have food on the supermarket shelves? And they're not really getting what it's all about. Non-compliance is basically acting always in a state of love and compassion and standing up against statute law. Sure, we still need infrastructure to function. We still need transport systems to function. We still need our society to function. But we don't need to be paying income taxes. We don't need to be paying mortgages. We don't need to be allowing ourselves to be controlled by statute legislation that doesn't actually apply to us, because statutes are not actually laws. They are basically rules and guidelines written up by our employees. And they don't actually apply to the people because we are above the government. We employ the government. So the rules that they make for their government employees don't actually apply to us. And that's all statutes are, folks. They're just rules that are made for government employees. And they trick everybody else into going along with them. The most effective method of non-compliance, folks, is love and compassion. Because if you are always acting out of love and compassion for everybody that you meet, then you're not going to be profiting from them. You're not going to be doing the wrong thing by them. You're not going to be dumping toxic waste into the river regardless of what your company says you should do. Non-compliance is actually going and reporting the CEOs of the company for even asking you to do such a thing. Non-compliance is standing up against corrupt legislation when it's enacted. Non-compliance is going and talking to your police officers and asking them whether their job is to protect society or whether they are simply employed as a corporate policy enforcer. Non-compliance is seeing the system for what it is and refusing to go along with anything that suggests that you should be acting in any other way than compassionately. Non-compliance is about respecting your fellow man, respecting the earth, and respecting all life upon it. That's what non-compliance is all about, folks. Non-compliance is seeing the meme for what it is, the idea that the world has to be this way for what it is. It's just an idea. And people go along with it simply because they comply with all these ridiculous rules and statutes that are enacted by our employees in order to control those who employ them. Just realizing this and standing up against it and knowing who and what you are and standing in your own trust is a beautiful way of not complying with this system. I mean, for example, the Australian government sent out census forms a few weeks ago. It had on the form, we would appreciate if you fill this form out. So obviously they're asking you to fill the form out. I mean, saying that we would appreciate if you filled it out is certainly not an order and certainly doesn't make it sound like it is against the law not to acquiesce to their request. And yet they had the gall to say that there will be a $110 fine for every day that you don't fill it out. I simply wrote no contract on it and sent it back. And I haven't heard back from them yet. It will be interesting when I do. Because there was no contract, and even if they claim the form is compulsory, well, it's only compulsory under statute law, not under actual law. Now, a few minutes ago I said, look, the problems that we're facing in the world have been created by our governments because they are the ones that are in control. And so it's very difficult to blame the human race for what's going on like our governments would like to do. I mean, they tell us the world's too polluted, and so we are now going to have to use energy-efficient light bulbs, which are incredibly bad for people's health. And this is what's going to fix all the problems that these governments have allowed to be created. But there is a darker side to it, folks, because sure, the government is to blame for creating this situation. The government and the corporate interests that control it are to blame for this situation. But now that we know that, the onus is laid on us. The onus is on the human race to realize what's happened, to realize that our employees are out of control, that the servants are now running the mansion, and to take the matter in hand. We really do need to do this, folks. Because now that the workings of the system have been laid bare for all to see, it's our choice as to whether we allow this situation to be perpetuated. I mean, I don't blame the human race for letting things get to the stage that they are, because people were lulled into this false sense of security, and we were taught that everything's okay, that our government is always going to be acting in our best interests, and that they're not going to do anything to harm or damage us. But their actions have very much proven otherwise, and so now it is up to the employers of these governments to stand up and to take the matter in hand. We have to fix the place, folks. We have to fix the planet. We have to fix the earth. We have to stop all of this rampant pollution. We have to stop all this rampant profiteering. We have to stop perceiving that the economy is more important than the people, because the economy's fake. It's just a bunch of digits. It doesn't mean anything. And let's face it, folks, the economy itself is based on a monetary system that itself is based on interest-bearing debt. So how real is this economy? Take the interest off money, cancel all debt, and let's create a real economy. But we certainly don't have one and will never be capable of having one with this current economic system in place. So we need to stop attaching a dollar value to everything we do. I mean, look what's happening in Fukushima, folks. But of course, if there's any suggestion about mobilizing the planet in order to address the problem, what we come up against is the expense involved in doing so, even though money is fiction, whereas the planet is real.